Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I thought we'd do something a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to take Paldean Fates, the special set which just came out. We are going to take Pokemon Card 151, the last special set that came out not that long ago, and we are going to see which of those represents better value in terms of hit cards. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. We could do a version of this that takes hours and drills down into everything. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we are going to compare the top 5 cards from each set and then have a little cheeky look at the cards following on after. Sound like a plan? Excellent. And because we're looking at, the big cards in the set, what we're actually going to be doing this time is we are going to be going top to bottom. And here's the fun thing. In both sets, the number 1 card is a Charizard. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Charizard is number 1, whether we're looking at Paldean Fates or whether we're looking at 151. Here's the thing, though. They're actually trending to about the same. The Charizard from 151 has kind of gone to about $115-ish. And the one from Paldean Fates is currently sitting at about $125, taken, of course, from TCG Player. So don't get me wrong, the one from Paldean Fates is a little more expensive at the moment. It's about $10 more. But it's also really worth bearing in mind that Paldean Fates is a newer set. Therefore, we would expect it to be a little more expensive, because as time goes by, prices tend to drop. So, looking at the number 1 card in the set, they're both a Charizard. Honestly, we could put them both to about $120 and they'd both be about right. There's nothing much to choose in the number 1 cards. So let's go to number 2, shall we? And if we look at the number 2 cards, it is a landslide victory for Paldean Fates. Number 2 in 151, you've got your special illustration rare Blastoise, which is coming in at about $45. Number 2 in Paldean Fates, you're talking Mew EX, a special illustration rare, which is currently sitting at about $80. But I do think we probably need to look at the graph for Mew. We're not going to look at all the graphs for all of these. They're all going down as we would expect. But sometimes some of these are a little bit more important. And for the Paldean Fates Mew, that is absolutely the case. Because I told you that Paldean Fates is a little bit more recent, which means it will go down over time, and the Mew is falling. Now, it's tapered off a little bit. It's not falling quite like it was, but make no mistake about it, it is, yeah. It is, it's falling quite a bit. But it's still a fair bit above the Blastoise. The Blastoise is kind of evened out at around $45. The Mew, it's going down, but it is not far off double. In the number 2 card, it is very, very easy. It's a landslide for Paldean Fates. And if we look at the number 3 cards in the set, it is still Paldean Fates, but it's a lot closer. In Paldean Fates, we've got Gardevoir, which is coming in at around about $50. Whereas 151, we've got the Venusaur, which is coming in at around $40. Yes, you'll notice at 151, we are very much focused on the first partner Pokemon. That is not a surprise. In a set built around Gen 1, the first partner Pokemon were always going to win. So that shouldn't really surprise anybody. But again, these are good number 3 cards. There are a lot of sets out there where the number 3 card absolutely would not be like a $40, $50 card. Well, that's just not happening. Here, yeah, these are pretty special sets. Of course, the Venusaur is not that playable. The Gardevoir is exceptionally playable, and I do think it's got slightly better artwork. But again, I need to remind you that Paldean Fates is a newer set than 151. So when we see the Gardevoir slightly above the Venusaur, there is an argument that a lot of that difference is made up by the fact that actually it's just a newer set. Going down into the number 4 card in the set, and here we are basically in a dead heat. Basically it's $40 for Zapdos and Iono. Zapdos obviously for 151, Iono for Paldean Fates. Technically on TCG Player, Iono is nearer to a $38 card and Zapdos is nearer to a $39 card, but then has a recently sold a $32, so I'm putting them both at about $40. We have evened up very nicely indeed. Number 1 was very close, but the edge went to Paldean Fates. Number 2 was not close, Paldean Fates whooped it. Number 3, it was very close, but again went to Paldean Fates. But this is the first time we really are in a dead heat. The Iono, obviously, it's one of the very best cards in the game right now. It's a supporter card that's like a staple in basically every deck, because you get to have both players shuffle a hand, put them on the bottom of their deck, and draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes, bearing in mind, of course, that, if you're losing the game, your opponent's going to get hurt by this a lot more than you are, which is rather lovely. Zapdos saw some play initially, has really tapered off, but there's still potential in a Pokemon with free retreat that can hit 120 to the active, 90 to the bench. And I said we were going to do a top 5. We're finishing off the top 5 with some proper old school favourites. We've got Full Art Charizard EX from 151 and Pikachu from Paldean Fates, the shiny Pikachu. And here's what's interesting. We've now finally flipped. Charizard is about a $35 card, although just a bit over that. And Pikachu is about a $30 card, although really just a bit under that. Paldean Fates has finally been dethroned. When we get to number 5, 151 finally starts winning. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Wassy. You've shown us a top 5. Give us an average. All right, then. Well, for 151, your average of those top 5 cards comes to exactly $55, although I've been rounding a little bit as we've gone for the actual values. So 151, the top 5 cards are coming in an average of $55. What about Paldean Fates? Well, that comes out as an average of $65, although again, we have done a bit of rounding as we've gone. But remember, it had the slight edge in number 1. Really, the big edge here is Mew versus Blastoise in that number 2 slot, and that's the big difference between 151 and Paldean Fates. They're actually very similar in terms of value, but Paldean Fates has Mew. Both sets drop to like $50 or less, but 151 does it after the number 1 Charizard, Paldean Fates does it after the number 2 Mew, and there's your answer. And if we keep going beyond the top 5, and we're not going to go too deep into this, but we got, a $30 Alakazam, a $25 Squirtle, a $30 Charmander, this is obviously for 151, a $20 Charmeleon, a $20 Blastoise, the full art. About what we would expect from the rest of the set. Whereas Paldean Fates, we've got your $25 Charmander, and then your $15 Charmeleon, $15 Clive, $15 Penny. So actually, once you get beyond the top 5, 151 has a little bit more staying power. And the answer is, and I hate to do this to you, but I'm going there, they're actually very similar. And I know that's a little bit boring, right? I know you want me to tell you that it's a landslide for one or the other and it's not even close and this set should be embarrassed and blah, blah, blah. But the reality of the situation is they are very, very similar sets. If you want me to come down with a definitive conclusion, the definitive conclusion is this. If you look at the top 5 cards in the set, the edge does go to Paldean Fates. But a large part of that is the fact that we have the Mew in at number 2. Otherwise, they're very, very similar. If you go outside the top 5, there's actually a longer tail in 151 than there is in Paldean Fates. And that means that between the two of them, they do end up coming out pretty gosh darn similar. Honestly, if I had to give the edge, I'd give it to 151, and if you're asking me to just give an opinion, which is very much looking to the future and no, I can't prove it, I do think 151 over time is going to be the set with the more staying power. So there we go, that's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Which of these sets do you prefer? Which of these sets have you picked up? What have your best pulls been from each of these sets? Let me know in the comment section. Get us! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like the lovely Uncle Pokepeter, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.